to reduce your vacancy rates so that you have cash flow coming in and you don't have unexpected losses of cash and it doesn't hurt, so that you can build wealth with ease. So number one is in your forecasting, you actually should plan a vacancy, well, my team do at least, of 1 week per year per property. 1 week. That should be more than enough. Now, here's a fun fact for you. Tenants on average actually stay in the house for about 7 years. So it's very unlikely that you'll consistently have a tenant move out every 12 months. I haven't experienced it. Majority of my tenants have stayed the whole time since I've owned the properties for more than 5 years. Now, number two is look out for red flags with property managers. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can think about this. For me and my clients, I've got property management training essentially. Your property managers should be treating your portfolio like a business for you. So they should prioritize your property online. So for example, property managers can actually pay a little bit more to have your ad of your property at the top of the list. How fucking cool is that? Number two, they should be giving you a breakdown of all of those views that are coming in. I'll give you an example. So they should be telling you, this is how many people we've had applied. Of those people, this is how many rocked up to view the inspection. Of those people, this is how many people actually said that they were interested in applying. And then number four, the amount that actually ended up applying. This is something that I go into detail with my existing clients because learning how to buy a property is one art, but learning how to hold onto it is a different art. And you need some leadership skills on how to look out for red flags with your property managers and how to hire the correct ones as well. And number three, technology. So technology has grown exponentially. It is not what it used to be. Your property manager actually has access to be able to see so much history of tenants who are applying these days. It's wild the amount of access that they have. So it's easier to vet and have a high quality tenants as well. Even in the areas that I buy, vacancy rates are extremely low. Across Australia, actually, it's a countrywide crisis at the moment that we have a housing shortage. So not only is it in favor of landlords at the moment where it's like, okay, instead of having 2 or 3 people apply, we now have like 10 people applying for the same house, sometimes 40 people lining up outside the door. And so combine a larger volume of people that you can choose from. There's also more advanced technology to see the history of how they treated their last ones. Like for example, they might have paid their bills okay and on time with their last landlord, but hang on, how did they leave the last property? For example, did they trash it? Did they get their bond back? All of these sort of things really help with reducing vacancies. The next one is when you buy your property off another landlord. So if you're buying it with an existing tenant in the door, I recommend, if you have the option, is to build into the contract to have it vacant. I personally, if it's an option, would rather have my take on a brand new property vacant so that I can have my new customer, aka tenant, they're going through my vetting process and I know what was done in order to get them in the door. However, it doesn't mean you should throw out a good deal for this. So if you're going to take on an existing tenant, what I would always make sure that you grab from the seller is grab a maintenance history report just to see like what were all the things that they complained about over the last 12 or 24 months. So you can get a bit of a taste or a feel for just because they paid their rent on time, just because they haven't trashed the place, but did they complain about weird things? And do they look like someone that's going to complain about just really annoying things? Like I'll give you an example. I had one tenant who constantly complained about silly, like this one little gas thing that was broken on one of the gas stoves. I'm not joking. So imagine you had a gas stove and you had like 6 different hot plates, right? That you could cook from. There was like one flame that wasn't working on one of them that she consistently complained about. Now, whilst it was getting fixed and I was having someone to come out and look at it, it was just like a silly thing to consistently be complaining about and something that I just didn't want to hear about. So that's some red flags that you can identify early on in your purchasing journey. Number 6 is owning multiple doors. Now, this is obviously for those who are building a much larger property portfolio. If you are somebody who owns, let's just say, 2 houses and you have $1 million worth of debt. So $500,000 on this house, $500,000 owing on this house. If you purchase your properties a little bit cheaper, you can own multiple doors, aka multiple income streams, aka the higher velocity as to how many times you can increase your rents. I'll give you an example. When interest rates went through the roof during 2020, I forgot now how long ago it was, 2022, 2023, interest rates went through the roof. So when that happened, it's usually what happens with rents is they usually take about 12 to 18 months to catch up. So say, I'm going to use my hands here, for example. Say, for example, this left hand over here was the rate at which interest rates were going up. And this hand over here was the rate of which my rents were going up. And let's just pretend I was a little bit negative cash flow to begin with. And let's just say that interest rates are going up and up and up and up and up. Well, guess what? It's only a short storm before the rents catch up with that. How do we get through that storm? Well, owning multiple doors allows us to increase the velocity of how many times that we can ask to increase our rents by. So I'll give you an example. During 2022, when the interest rates were going up, my parents were calling me, my grandparents were like, sweetie, is your portfolio okay? Are you going to be able to hold on to it? And I was like, yeah, because guess what? If I have, say for example, 7 different customers or clients across $1 million worth of debt, well, on average, they're all on 12-month leases, right? So that means on average, it's only probably going to be about somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks away before I can increase the rent on one of my tenants that is relative to whatever the average median is in that area, of which again, obviously rents skyrocket because of inflation and it's relative to rates going up. So the pain of interest rates going up, it's only short term, and the pain isn't that bad when your debt is scattered across more assets, more income streams. So I can increase my rents every 6 to 8 weeks on average, right? If you had that amount of properties. Now, last but not least is number 7. If all else fails and it was really horrible, well, guess what? That's the reason why we have bond. We request bond if they trash the place, if they were to leave, or if they were to leave and not pay rent, which is, I've never personally experienced that, just to let you know. I've never experienced that. Could that ever happen? Potentially. That's why we take things like bond, right? Let's just say bond doesn't cover for the damage that they made or for the vacancy that they have. That's also then, last but not least, landlord's insurance. That's what landlord's insurance covers you for. This is non-financial advice. Make sure you go speak to an insurance person.